In every marriage, there are secrets, some small, some devastating. But few secrets end in tragedy, and fewer still are covered up with such chilling precision. This is the story of a woman who trusted too deeply, a husband who hid behind charm and lies, and a family who refused to let the truth be buried with her. This is the staged death of Stacy Feldman. Stacy Feldman's life was built around love, family, and community. At 44, she seemed to be living the life she'd always dreamed of. A home in Denver, 2 beautiful children, and a husband she believed was her partner in everything. Friends described Stacy as the kind of woman who lit up a room, girly, compassionate, always thinking of others. Her sister, Susan Ullman, would later say, "She was the baby of the family, Daddy's little girl, and the life of every gathering." But what no one could see was that behind the picture-perfect image, something much darker was unfolding. Robert "Bob" Feldman, Stacy's husband, was charming, older, and at first glance, the ideal partner. They met in the early 2000s, married in Montreal, and built what looked like a happy family. But the truth was far from it. Bob struggled with his career, leaving Stacy to work to keep the family afloat. He controlled the finances, kept everything in his name, and used money as a weapon. Friends noticed the imbalance. Stacy was trapped in a marriage that looked stable but was cracking from within. Then came the affairs. Bob wasn't just unfaithful once, he made it a habit, creating fake profiles on dating apps under names like Robert Wolf and Mike Reed. To each woman, he was a different man, sometimes divorced, sometimes religious, always lying. By early 2015, one of those lies would set off a chain of events that ended in murder. In February of that year, Bob matched with a woman named Susan McBride on Tinder. He told her he was divorced and raising 2 kids on his own. Their dates seemed normal at first, but Susan grew suspicious when she couldn't find any trace of him online. When she confronted him, Bob spun another web, claiming he used fake names because of a stalker. Against her better judgment, Susan gave him another chance. But the truth came crashing down when Susan did some digging and found Stacy listed as the PTO president at her children's school. Very much alive, very much married. Realizing she'd been deceived, Susan made a decision that would change everything. On the morning of March 1st, 2015, she emailed Stacy directly, telling her about Bob's affair and attaching proof of his lies. At 9 a.m., Stacy called Susan. Instead of anger, Susan heard calmness in her voice. Stacy said this wasn't the first time Bob had cheated, but this time, she said something different. "I'm done with him." Those words, "I'm done with him," would become the key to proving motive years later. That afternoon, Stacy never made it to pick up her children from religious school. When Bob finally arrived, he acted strangely, disheveled, impatient, dismissive. Hours later, and during the 911 call, Bob's frantic voice cried out, "My wife's not breathing! Please help me!" He claimed he found Stacy in the shower, unconscious, with the water running. But from the moment first responders arrived, something didn't add up. There was no water on the floor, unusual if someone had been pulled from a running shower. The scene looked staged. There were items knocked over, but not enough to suggest a struggle. And during the 911 call, there were no sounds of CPR, only a toilet flushing. An autopsy was performed the next day. The young pathologist, Dr. Kelly Kobolansky, documented more than 80 separate injuries, bruises, abrasions, hemorrhages, and even a chipped tooth. But she couldn't determine exactly how Stacy died. With no clear cause of death, the case was ruled undetermined. That ruling gave Bob his window. He collected $750,000 in life insurance and went on with his life. Dating again, lying again, and even telling new women that Stacy had died of cancer. But Stacy's family, especially her sister Susan, never believed it was an accident. From the start, she was convinced Bob had killed her sister. She told reporters later, "My immediate reaction when my dad told me Stacy was dead, I said Bob killed her." Months passed, and the case grew cold, but Susan refused to let it fade away. She researched, contacted experts, and gathered every inconsistency she could find. Her persistence led her to the Training Institute on Strangulation Prevention, a group that connected her with Detective Randy Dennison, the original investigator, and Dr. Bill Smock, one of the leading forensic experts in strangulation deaths. Dr. Smock's background was impressive: a police surgeon, forensic pathologist, and expert witness in high-profile homicide cases. When he reviewed Stacy's autopsy photos in 2017, his findings changed everything. He saw what others had missed. The bruises on Stacy's arms weren't from falling. They were from someone pinning her down. The burst blood vessels in her eyes pointed to suffocation. The fabric imprints on her skin showed she was attacked while clothed, meaning she never made it to the shower alive. Her defensive wounds told a story of terror and resistance. Dr. Smock concluded that Stacy had been strangled and suffocated during a violent struggle, likely pinned down as she fought for her life. After killing her, Bob stripped her body and staged the bathroom scene to look like an accident. The autopsy revealed clear evidence of murder. Bottles in the shower were neatly arranged, though others were knocked over, and there were no bruises under the shelf Robert Feldman claimed had fallen, proving the scene was staged. In February 2018, Feldman was arrested for first-degree murder, but justice was delayed as he used Stacy's life insurance money to fund his defense, filing motions and appeals for years. During house arrest, he flaunted his freedom online, enraging Stacy's family. When the trial finally began in April 2022, prosecutors exposed his lies: the affair, the email, the insurance motive, and the faked accident. Their expert witness, Dr. Smock, showed how Feldman likely pinned Stacy down and cut off her air. "Stacy Feldman can't tell you what happened," said prosecutor Maggie Conboy, "but her body can." The jury took only hours to convict Feldman of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to life without parole. Outside court, Stacy's sister said through tears, "Justice has been served, but nothing brings her back." Stacy's story remains a powerful warning about coercive relationships, where control, financial manipulation, and isolation can escalate into deadly violence. The truth did what it always does. It surfaced, thanks to a sister who refused to give up, a friend who told the truth, and experts who saw what others missed. Stacy Feldman's voice was finally heard, even from the silence of her staged death. If you found this story powerful, don't let it fade away. Share it, because awareness saves lives. Subscribe for more true crime stories where justice triumphs over deception. And remember, sometimes the most ordinary homes hide the darkest secrets.